friends and family, and other people. Welcome to another year of B-Sox and Andy, or Andy and B-Sox's Unsanctioned College Bowl Preview. Second year we were doing this.
And nobody's caught us yet, so that's cool.
Well, it's only the second year. So we're going to take a look at the Iowa-Missouri game in this segment. We're also going to be previewing the BCS Bulls and the National Championship game. Not to mention our three favorite Bulls other than those Bulls right there. And that might get kind of interesting because there's not a lot going on this year.
And maybe it's just because we're both, you much bigger than I am, Iowa Hawkeye fans. Mm-hmm. And I think most Iowa Hawkeye fans just don't really care.
About the other Bulls this
About
year?
Anything.
Yeah, it was
even
kind of a
their
down
own
year.
game.
I wouldn't say that. So that's where we'll start today. We'll start with the Iowa-Missouri game in the Insight Bowl, December 28th, down in Arizona. That's in Tempe?
It is in Tempe. It's a late start. I think 9 o'clock start time here in the Central Time Zone.
The last time Iowa played a 9 o'clock start time didn't go so well.
Actually, the past few times they've played in the Western.
Let's not talk about that.
Okay.
But yeah, Big 10, Big 12 matchup. Missouri, who is 10-2 on the season, 6-2 in the conference. And I was going over some of the key wins and losses and stuff for both teams. Iowa's key wins, not a lot of them this year. Michigan State, obviously one of them at Kinnick Stadium.
Yeah, that was a big win for Iowa. And that was the point of the season in which Iowa fans thought after the Arizona loss and the Wisconsin loss, because I think Michigan State was after Wisconsin, they thought, okay, this season is still salvageable and we still have a chance at a good BCS game. And then after that, it just kind of went to hell. Yeah,
everything fell apart. But then you look at Missouri's key wins. Yeah, they beat Oklahoma, who is in a BCS game this year. And beyond that, Texas A&M was the only other one I thought that was a big win for them.
Yeah, but remember, the Big 12, it's a great conference. Missouri had one of those schedules kind of like Iowa fans thought Iowa did going into this season, where it was really favorable for this team. And Missouri actually took advantage of that and beat the teams they were supposed to, where Iowa didn't. I think the one thing I'm going to say about this real quick is that despite the records, just throw those completely out the window. This is actually, on paper, a very evenly matched game.
No, you look at their stats between the team stats, offense, defense. Missouri's offense, 42 touchdowns this year. Iowa's offense, 40 touchdowns. Passing yards, 238, 237, respectively, for each teams. And rushing yards, about the same as well. It was fairly close if you look at those stats, man.
And two teams that run very different offenses, obviously, too, and teams that run very different defensive schemes, if I'm not mistaken, too. So it's going to be an interesting matchup no matter what. Before we even get into who's going to win and how it's going to all go, I'll just say that, Missouri is a team that obviously expected to be in the Cotton Bowl this year, didn't get there, got passed over. I think this would have been a much more attractive matchup, and I know I'm not the only fan of Iowa to say this, that Nebraska was a much better fit in this bowl, but they totally got the boot, so
I don't know about that one. I know there's the whole thing of everybody wanting to see the preview of, the Big Ten matchups.
It would have been the easy home run here.
It would have been, but there's part of me that's like, you know what? Iowa-Missouri has some history from a couple years ago where Missouri backed out of a contract with Iowa to play them in the non-conference schedule. So part of me is like, you know what? Yeah, let's do this thing.
You're a lot more optimistic than I am. Like I said, I look at this game and I go, really? They're two teams that had not as great of finishes as they'd like.
No.
And Missouri obviously expected to be in a better bowl than they are here, so they're kind of settling. Iowa's had their problems, obviously, so.
But you look at it, too, the Big 12's bowl schedule blows. There's no other way to say it. I mean, you have a 10-2 team playing on December 28th.
Which actually makes me wonder to myself, other than taking the cash and running with it, why Texas would even want to keep the Big 12 together. They're essentially the only reason the Big 12 didn't completely dissolve this season.
Yeah, no, they truly are. But here's one of the things I like to look at about this game. Iowa's 5 losses. They went 7-5. Losses to Arizona, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Northwestern, Ohio State. Those 5 losses, combined, the average total, 3.6 points.
Yeah, they were
what they lost to.
Whereas the 2009 Iowa Hawkeyes were winning those games, the 2010 Iowa Hawkeyes not at all.
And a lot of it, I hate to say it comes down to the defense. The defense that was supposed to be so great this year, they gave it up in the last minute of the game. In the last 3 games, you had teams winning on last-second field goals or last-second, touchdowns or whatever. And
they got gassed.
They did. They really did. And you saw that. The first time you saw that was the Wisconsin game.
And again, a difference between last year's Hawkeyes and this year's Hawkeyes is the fact that the Iowa Hawkeyes of 2009 were getting the last opportunity to come back and win the game, and they did on several occasions, whereas the 2010 Iowa Hawkeyes were, given the last chance to make a stop on defense, which traditionally has been their forte the past few years with a guy like Adrian Claiborne on the defensive line there. And they've got some great defensive players. They just couldn't make it happen this year. They looked physically tired.
They did. And they got beat up, too. I mean, you look at, Hyde, freshman, playing in the secondary. It's like, really?
He had some decent games.
But he also got picked on.
He also got killed,
Yeah. I mean, that's just the way it is. He'll get better with time. But, all right, so it comes down to this.
By the way, is it any coincidence that Hyde had his best game against his brother's team, Michigan State?
Oh, no.
Sorry.
Not at all. Not at all. That's going to be a fun Christmas for them. Okay, so it breaks down like this. How does this game play out on December 28th in the Insight Bowl?
Do you want a prediction right off the bat?
Yeah.
I say Missouri wins this game, and I think they win by maybe 3 points. I'm not optimistic about either team's chances here. I mean, I don't think it's going to be an unusually high-scoring game. I see something in the neighborhood of maybe a 20-17 final, Missouri over Iowa. And I think the only reason Iowa loses that game is because their special teams have been extremely suspect this year, including their kicking game.
Yeah, we have no kicker. Yeah. So I honestly think that Iowa has a chance to pull this off. If you go back a couple years to when Iowa played in the Alamo Bowl, everybody gave up on them. And Kirk Ferentz can't coach. Norm Parker can't get his guys up. They have no reason to play in this game. Season was supposed to be a whole lot better. It's almost the exact same scenario because they were picked to be like preseason number 3 that year, and S just went downhill. But here's what I think. If you go back to that Alamo Bowl, they got up for Texas. They tried to salvage their season, and I think that they'll do much the same here. Norm Parker in that game put in a whole bunch of blitzes. The defense looked different. It looked more aggressive, and I think against a team like Missouri, you're going to have to be like that. And since you don't have another game after that point, you can design your defense and change everything you want to just go after this team.
Who won that Texas-Iowa game, by the way?
Texas on a last-second field goal or score or something. Iowa had a chance.
I'm going to cite a number of reasons why I don't think the Iowa Hawkeyes are going to win this game. I remain optimistic. I'd love to see Iowa win this game, but here's the reasons I think they aren't going to win. I think missing Adam Robinson for whatever reason he's missing this game is a big loss for this team. They're down to one guy, and his name's Coker. With all the drug problems the Iowa Hawkeyes have had, I'm not the first person to make that joke, by the way, but a guy named Coker, maybe he should change the name. Then you got DJK, that whole situation. The guy's not exactly a home run threat like a Marvin McNutt is, but what DJK is a possession receiver, which the Hawkeyes don't readily have available. Keenan Davis, I mean, is he your next option, really? I think your next option at receiver is probably more likely an Alan Reisner, a tight end type.
Yeah.
And that's that's a 5 to 6 yard slant over the middle. Reisner's not a downfield guy whatsoever. So the Missouri defense, all they have to do, that defensive backfield, is double on McNutt all day, and it's going to be trouble for the Hawkeyes moving the ball.
So do you think we'll see, what about this scenario? What if you have Stanzi? What if you have more bootlegs? Because when he bootlegs, and it's a constant in Iowa offenses, and they always start, I don't understand why, but when they bootleg, they could get 10 yards off of every bootleg just running.
And Stanzi's got the legs to do it, but remember, on some of those naked bootlegs, things like the Northwestern game last year happen. Bad things can happen when naked bootlegs aren't run correctly. So anyway,
brought Stanzi down by his shoelaces. Season over, but I think they'll be okay. I really do. I don't think Kirk Ferentz is the type, and I don't think a lot of players on that team are the type that will just roll over for some Missouri team that's 10-2.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I also think that, there's a bit of a border battle kind of going on in this game, too, with Iowa and Missouri, and they just don't get a chance to play each other much. I get that, but I still say it's going to be relatively low scoring. It's not going to be a whole lot of fireworks in this game, and I still think Missouri wins this game by a field goal because they can.
I'll take Iowa 24-17. You think I'm crazy, don't you?
I don't. I'd love to see Iowa win this game.
All right, coming up here in a few minutes, we will get to your BCS games and your national championship game on Unsanctioned.